Spin your passion into a business with Shopify and break sales records with the world's best converting checkout. Let's hear that one more time. The world's best converting checkout. Shopify's legendary checkout makes it easier for customers to shop on your website, across social media, and everywhere in between. Now that's music to your ears. Any way you spin it, you can be a smash hit with Shopify. Start your $1 a month trial today at shopify.com/records.
Today, we'll have Marin's trip with her adult children. That's coming up on this episode 364 of WW Prep to Go. Hello and welcome to WW Prep to Go, where we talk strategy and ideas for people planning their Disney World trips. And we have lots and lots of trip reports like today. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 364. Today is going to be a trip report with Marin. She very recently just got back from a Disney World trip that was delayed, and also a chance to celebrate a couple of things in their family. I loved this conversation with Marin so much. I always love when a trip has different unique elements to it, because I think there's just things to learn from every single one. If you want to be a trip report guest like Marin, particularly if you have a situation, a travel dynamic, a travel style, details of your trip that are something you haven't heard before, please feel free to submit through the SpeakPipe information in the show notes of every single episode. Leave a voicemail with the information about your trip. One thing that I don't think I've mentioned very much that I wanted to make sure you know is that every single episode has a written version on the website, not in the show notes. We have it on the website so that when people are searching, that they come across something that is readable, and that also includes lots of pictures. So if you happen to want to have links to things, pictures of things, if you want a readable version of it, if you thought, hey, 6 months ago, I remember seeing this one thing where they did this event, I'd like to see or remind myself how that went. You don't necessarily have to go and listen to the audio again if you don't want to. You can go to the website. We have a great person on our team, Leanne. Hi, Leanne. And she goes through the audio as soon as it's uploaded and has the written version ready for when it's live. And it's fantastic because I go through the written version. It's not a transcript. It's a written version so that people who are readers as opposed to doing audio will have a version that works for them. So anyway, if you ever want to reference it, feel free to go back and also look at pictures of a lot of the things that we talk about here. I think that is it for the housekeeping. Without any further ado, here's my chat with Marin. Welcome to the podcast, Marin.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, we are talking on Friday, June 9th. Are you headed somewhere soon?
We sure are. We have a lot to celebrate, and we're planning to do that at Disney World.
All right, well, I can't wait to hear what you're celebrating. What are your trip dates?
We are leaving, well, we're sort of leaving in waves, but the first wave leaves on Wednesday, the 14th, and my son and I are going to drive. And then the second wave is my husband, who is flying in. And then the third wave are our military kids who are coming on Saturday.
All right. So June 14th is the first of the waves.
That's the first of the waves.
And when does the trip end?
It ends on Wednesday, the 28th. That's when we leave Disney.
Wow. That is a long time. I can't wait to hear what's happening in between.
There's a lot.
Okay. There is a lot. Okay. So you mentioned lots of different people there. Who are all the people involved in the waves?
So our group is my family of 5 adults. It's me and my husband and our daughter, Kate, and our son-in-law, Tyler, and our son, Will.
All right. And is that all the people, or is there anybody else?
Nope, that's all the people.
Okay, got it. And can you explain what you're celebrating and what the different waves are about?
Sure. Our initial trip we had planned for summer of 2020, and that was to celebrate my retirement from a long teaching career. And then, of course, that didn't happen. So we pushed it to 2021 and then decided we didn't want to go because we don't get to go very frequently. So
Mm-hmm.
we didn't want to go back until things were substantially the same as they had been the last time we were there, which was quite some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2022, we didn't do it because our daughter got engaged. And you can't do a big wedding and a big Disney trip in the same summer, or at least we can't do a big wedding and a big
Mm-hmm.
Disney trip in the same summer. So 2023 it is.
All right. So celebrating your retirement,
Right.
and your daughter's married now.
And since then, yes, our daughter got married, and Jim and I just on Monday of this week just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary.
Nice.
So we are sort of incorporating all of those things into this redo trip.
All right. Well, congrats on 30 years.
You.
Okay. And you said something about one of the waves is military. So where's the military part of it come in?
Right. Our daughter and son-in-law are, well, at the time we booked the trip, they were both active duty Navy. Our daughter is a nurse and our son-in-law is a weapons systems officer in F-18s.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, our daughter has gotten out of the Navy, but our son-in-law is still in, and we are really grateful to be using the Armed Forces salute to sort of defray some of the cost of this big trip.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So where are you all staying this trip?
So we are starting at Pop Century, and we'll be there for the first 2 nights. And then we will spend the majority of our time at the Riviera.
Okay. And everybody is staying in the same places?
Well, the first few nights, the Pop Century nights, that will just be Jim, Will, and me, just the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then after our kids arrive, our military kids arrive, then we'll be checking into the Riviera. The Riviera is the only part of the trip that we are staying with the Armed Forces salute.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to check into the Riviera, you have to have your military personnel with you.
Right.
So we decided that we would go a little early because of part of our wedding anniversary celebration. And so that's the plan.
Okay. Got it. Okay. And has your son-in-law ever been to Disney World?
He went once when he was a teenager on a school trip. And he says he doesn't remember much except for standing in really long lines.
Okay. Well, we want to hopefully fix that.
I think so. Yes.
Need to give him a better impression this time. So are you the
Absolutely.
primary planner for the whole group?
I am. I'm a hyper planner, much to my family's entertainment.
Yeah. Okay. I was afraid you were going to say your family's dismay.
Oh no, they are the lucky recipients of my desperate need to plan everything right down to the minute.
That's right. Well, I think it is a huge perk to have somebody like you on board. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. I know there's going to be a lot of people coming in. So June 14th, is you driving?
Right, we are driving. We live in the Kansas City area, so my son and I are driving.
That's right.
And that's about a 2-day drive, more or less.
May I ask why you're driving?
Sure. There are several reasons, actually. My husband and I are both teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And so the summertime we have a lot of time and space to spread ourselves out, for lack of a better term. We just really enjoy the road trip. We have always road tripped when we vacationed in the summertime. And to be honest, I don't love to fly. I do it, but I don't love it. And so given the time and space, we would always choose to drive.
Okay. So that is you and your son making a
Right.
2-day drive down.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the next significant date?
Then my husband, he is working all next week at a journalism conference. He's a journalism teacher. And so he will get back into where we live, into Kansas City, the Kansas City area, on Thursday and do a really quick turnaround and head for the airport Thursday evening. And he will arrive about 11 p.m. on Thursday night.
Okay. And as I look at my calendar, Thursday is the 15th?
It is.
Okay. So June 15th, your husband is flying.
Right.
And so does he beat you to Florida then?
No, we'll actually beat him. We're planning to arrive probably about 3 o'clock to the Pop Century.
Okay. Arriving June 15th for you and your son, and then your husband is flying. And then all three of you are Pop Century, as you told us the first couple of days.
Right.
And then is it June 16th or 17th that the daughter and son-in-law arrive?
They arrive on the 17th on Saturday, about 2:30 in the afternoon.
Okay. And they're flying in?
They are flying in, yes.
And is it this day that everybody checks into the Riviera?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I am making note of that. And before they arrive, do you guys have plans, the three of you, at Disney World while you're staying at Pop Century?
We actually do. We have Will and I, when we arrive, our plan is very loose. We think we will just sort of explore around. We haven't actually been to Disney World since 2015.
Mhm.
It's been a long time. So, of course, so many things are new and different. We are planning to do a bit of a Skyliner crawl because that's new, of course, and we'll just kind of wander around and see what there is to see. We've never stayed at Pop Century, so that'll be kind of fun, and ride the Skyliner around, get some food, have a drink, just be very much in the moment.
Okay. So June 15th is arrival and Skyliner crawl.
Right.
What is June 16th?
June 16th, we will probably end up eventually, late morning likely, at Disney Springs. I would really like to take the boat across to the French Quarter and get some beignets. I think that sounds like fun. We will just sort of wander around Disney Springs. We do have tickets to see the new Pixar movie, Elemental. We're big Pixar fans, and it opens that day. So since we're just sort of hanging around, we thought it might be fun to spend that hour and a half seeing the movie there. And then Friday evening, we have a reservation at Victoria and Albert's to celebrate our wedding anniversary. And that will just be the two of us.
All right. That is exciting.
It is exciting.
That is a nice, I can't wait to see how that is because they haven't been reopened for too long.
Right.
So that'll be fun. Okay. So that's a great anniversary. And then June 17th is when the whole crew arrives. You check into Riviera. Do you have other plans on June 17th?
We do. We will probably get up early and check out of Pop Century and drive over to the Riviera and leave our luggage. And then we are planning to hopefully make the rope drop at Magic Kingdom, just the three of us. And we'll just sort of play that by ear and see how it goes. We're planning to have a much more leisurely morning at Magic Kingdom than we are typically used to. I mentioned that I'm a bit of a hyper planner, so normally we are belly up to the turnstiles and moving quickly the second that the rope drops. But we are going to try and take it a little more easy on this morning and enjoy some of the things that we have not historically taken the time to do. Just strolling down Main Street and maybe stop and get a pastry and look at the things that we don't normally take the time to look at. We will probably ride a thing or two. I will probably get an individual lightning lane for Tron, maybe Seven Dwarfs. We'll see. At any rate, it's just a leisurely morning. And then eventually we will go back to the Riviera. We're planning to meet Kate and Tyler there, likely about 3 o'clock, barring any kind of flight delays.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll check in. I did online check in. I don't know if that will actually work or not. But anyway, we'll check in and maybe get settled a little bit. And we're hoping to be at Epcot by about 5 o'clock. That's our plan.
And what are you planning to do at Epcot?
So at Epcot, we are going to I will try and get an individual lightning lane for Guardians. That's sort of at the top of everybody's list. And then we have a reservation at Rose and Crown for the Epcot Forever fireworks. And then that'll be the end of our evening.
Nice. So you said it's going to be easy Magic Kingdom morning, but you did make references to individual lightning lanes. So, what is your general thoughts on using Genie Plus this trip, individual lightning lanes, and how hard was it to learn since it was all new?
My feeling is if we're going to do it, we're going to do it to the best of our ability and budget. And so we're going to do Genie Plus the whole time. I've got standby skipper and we'll do all the individual lightning lanes.
Okay.
Just because, as I said, we don't get to go very often.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just going to plan to do all the things. We're going to throw money at everything.
Yeah. I have total empathy for people that don't want to do that, but it really does allow you to do so much more. So-
Right. And I completely agree. And we're just really fortunate that we can do this. So that's the plan.
Okay. Well, June 17th sounds like a fun day. That might include some individual lightning lanes.
Mhm.
And you said that this trip goes through June 28th. So are these all park days or how is that
We
broken
have
up?
one rest day built in, and then we will not go hard every single day. There are a couple that we will do that. Maybe take a break, maybe not. Historically, we are the go hard all day, park open to park close, but we don't necessarily feel the need to do that on this trip. So some of it will just be a little bit by ear.
I'm jealous of your ability to get adult children to go on a trip of this length.
We feel really fortunate that our adult kids still want to hang out with us.
Yes, but just the time off work and all the logistics that are associated with adults.
That is true. And we are very fortunate. Everybody was able to make it work. But this trip has been in the planning really since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of advance notice.
Okay, great. I'm happy you guys have this time together then.
Thanks.
So June 18th.
So June 18th is our Hollywood Studios Day. And that is going to be one of those really, really early days. We are going to start at about 6:15 in the morning. I already have a lift scheduled to pick us up at the Riviera. And the lift is going to drop us off at the Speedway gas station, convenience store. And then we are going to walk to Hollywood Studios from there so that we can sort of beat the wave. I didn't want to ride the Skyliner there because I wasn't sure about getting behind the crowd at Caribbean Beach. And I know the lifts sometimes they're not able to drop you off or get through the gates early. And as I mentioned, we like to be belly up to the turnstiles. So that's the plan. I know that sounds crazy, but that's just kind of how we roll, I guess.
You might also be able to do the swan or dolphin.
I thought about that. Yes, I did think about that. At any rate, our plan is to get there super early so that we can be through security and at the turnstiles at the front of the pack.
Okay. And then what's your primary goal once you're in Hollywood Studios?
We will do I haven't quite decided. We'll do all the things. I'll get an individual lightning lane for Rise of the Resistance, and then we'll start working through Genie Plus attractions as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
our primary focus is rides.
But is there like a ride that you think you're going to do when you first arrive to Hollywood Studios?
We will probably rope drop Slinky Dog
Mm-hmm.
and then hit Mickey and Minnie's and then sort of see what happens from there. I don't know. It's really difficult for me because I've always been able to plan a little bit better exactly how things were going to go. And this is very much more of a fly by the seat of your pants a little bit. So we'll just have to see. This is also my practice day. I just don't have any idea how it will go or if I'll be able to do it without completely messing it up. So we'll just see.
I know your Magic Kingdom day was a chill day, but that might be a good chance to practice as well.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And we will.
Okay. So it's a hit Hollywood Studios hard day starting very early.
Right.
Do you have any dining reservations to stay?
We do. We have an 11 o'clock lunch reservation at Sci-Fi. That is sort of a tradition. Historically, we always have a meal there. And then I made that as part of a Phantasmic dinner package or fireworks package, I guess. And then we'll do all the rides in the shows. Maybe we will take a break. Not sure about that. And then we'll probably just do quick service dinner at Docking Bay or ABC Commissary or someplace like that. And then we will see Phantasmic. And then we have a 9:40 reservation at Oga's. And I don't know how that's going to work. At the time we made that reservation, Phantasmic was going off at 9. And so we thought, okay, we can make that. We're pretty good at moving fast and the dodge and weave. But now that it's not starting till 9:15, I even saw maybe 9:20. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. I don't know how late we can show up or how early we're going to want to leave Phantasmic. So I'm not sure about that yet, but we have the reservation. We wanted to stay late after the park closed and sort of take our time exiting.
Yeah, it is tricky when they keep changing the things around.
Right.
So, okay, you'll have to let us know how that goes, but it's a really fun way to close Hollywood Studios when you're one of the only ones left in
Right.
Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
Okay, June 19th.
So June 19th is our Epcot day, and we will get up early and get the earliest Skyliner we can over to Epcot, and we'll take advantage of early entry. And then we will do headliners probably in as much as we can with individual Lightning Lane and Genie Plus until about 11. And then our plan is to do drinking and snacking around the world. Since we are all adults, we thought that sounded like a lot of fun. None of us are particularly big drinkers at all, so we'll do a lot of sharing. We have a list of cocktails that we would not normally order on any given day, but some fun, different things that we think we'll like to try. And then also the Flower and Garden food booths. There, I have a list of things that we thought sounded fabulous, many of which you recommended, you and your team. And we may or may not take a break. It'll be hot, so we may take a break, couple of hours, maybe go back and hit the pool, take a nap, whatever it might be. And then we have a 7:00 dinner reservation at Beer Garden. And that's not something we've ever done before. We thought it sounded like fun. But of all of our table service reservations, that's probably the most expendable. So we'll just see how it goes. And if we feel like we're hungry, we'll keep it. And if not, we may not. We may just fill up on chicken and waffles and things like that instead.
Yeah. I always think that one feels like a really smart reservation, though, because you get entertainment, good
Right.
food. So if you do get to keep it, hopefully you'll enjoy it.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. And then we'll likely stay for extended evening hours that evening, which is more the reason that we would probably take a break in the afternoon. And that really depends on how much we're able to get done in the morning before we start with our tour around the world.
Yeah, of course. Well, that sounds like a good Epcot day. Hopefully you'll get to do extended evening theme park hours and we'll get to hear how you like that. What about June 20th?
So June 20th is our rest day. That is, our plan is really to choose your own adventure. Everybody can do what they want to do. And that's really how the whole week is. I have all of these fabulous plans, but, everybody can be and do whatever they would like to be and do in the moment. But we're going to probably hang out at the pool. Somebody may want to go to Disney Springs. I thought it would be fun to do a monorail crawl in the afternoon. I would really like to go to Trader Sam's. I've never been there. And that sounds like a fun thing to do. So if we can make that work, we may do that. And so it's really just kind of just a very chill day. Choose your own adventure. And the only thing you can for that day is we have a 7:45 reservation at Topolino's for dinner.
Topolino's dinner. You might as well. You're right there.
Right.
Okay, great. June 21st.
So the 21st is our Magic Kingdom day. And again, we'll get up early and get the earliest bus that we can. Really kind of more of the same. Just focus on rides and doing our thing. For lunch, I've never had a cheeseburger spring roll, and I've been hearing about those forever. So we'll probably get one of those at some point. We will likely take a break that day because, again, we'll be back in Magic Kingdom for extra evening hours that night. So maybe a early to late afternoon break. And then Kate and Tyler are celebrating their first wedding anniversary. So they have a reservation, just the two of them at GCO at 7:00. They thought that sounded like good food and an interesting, different experience. So that's where they chose to do that. And Jim and Will and I will probably just grab dinner at maybe Primo Piatto or whatever grabs us.
Now,
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, you have not been to Disney World since Happily Ever After was the fireworks show.
Right. Well, I don't know. I can't even remember what it was the last time we were there.
It was Wishes.
It was Wishes. You are absolutely right. I do remember.
So we have lots of days left in your trip. Do you have plans to see those fireworks?
We do. That is our last night activity, and we're doing that in a little bit of a special way.
Okay, great. We'll get to it then. I just wanted to make sure it was on the list because you hadn't been since 2015.
Oh, yes. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So we'll probably meet them back at Magic Kingdom, and Jim, Will, and I will head back whenever the whim strikes us. I kind of would like to be there right at the beginning of Happily Ever After, only because I would love to see the projections along Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that looks like in terms of crowds. I don't love fireworks crowds at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can time it so that we can at least be maybe at the very back just for that part, then we may do that. And then we'll take advantage of the extra evening hours until we've done everything we want to do or until we get tired.
Okay. Extended evening theme park hours again. Nice. Okay. June 22nd.
So we will probably sleep in on the 22nd. That's our Animal Kingdom day. And I'm an early riser, so I'll get up and do the Genie Plus and the individual lightning lanes, all the things. And then when we get around to it, we will head for Animal Kingdom. And then when we feel like we've done everything that we want and can do, we will take a break. And then we have a dinner reservation at Le Cellier. And that's my son's absolute must-do restaurant. So it seems kind of strange to be bouncing around a little bit, but that's the place that we were able to fit that in the best. And then for the evening, we are going to go over to Jelly Rolls.
Oh, fun.
I love a piano bar, and we haven't been there since all of us have been 21. So we thought that would be a fun way to spend an evening.
Yeah. I mean, you're showing exactly the kind of stuff you can do when you have an all adult group.
Right. Exactly.
So you said that was his must do. When you started planning this trip, did everyone say what their must do's were and you just incorporated that?
Yes, exactly. What rides are important, what restaurants are important. And the four of us, the OGs, we have been there enough to know what we've really enjoyed in the past. And, Tyler is so amenable. He's along for the ride and just really looking forward to doing Disney the way we do it.
Mm-hmm. And next time you go, he'll have his own preferences.
Exactly.
Okay, so June 23rd.
So the 23rd is our last day in the parks. And we are going to do a choose your own adventure sort of a morning. Everybody can sort of do what they want, sleep if they're tired, get up and go. Jim and I may go into Epcot that morning and just sit in France and have a cup of coffee and eat a pastry or something like that. But at 11 o'clock or so, everybody will make their way to Epcot from wherever they are. And we have an 11:30 lunch reservation at Space 220. And we tried to get the lounge and we're not able to do that. So we're just going to have lunch. And then we have a VIP tour scheduled beginning at 2:00.
Oh, that is amazing.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm so excited.
So the VIP tour guide is meeting you at Epcot?
At Epcot at 2:00, yes.
All right. Fantastic. Tell us about your priorities for the VIP tour guide.
So our plan is to do all 4 parks. We have him or her booked from 2 to 9, and we'll start in Epcot and we'll end in the Magic Kingdom. And that's our
Mhm.
happily ever after experience. My understanding is that there's a VIP area right on the hub, and that is a far less crowded place to really get a good view of the whole shebang. So that's the plan. And
It
really all day long will be sort of a greatest hits. We'll probably pick 2 or 3 or however many rides that we really would like to ride again. Or if there's something that we missed for any reason, that's kind of our pickup day with our VIP tour guide.
That is amazing. You're right that happily ever after viewing is incredible. So that's exciting.
It is exciting. Thank you. Yeah, we're really excited about that. That's sort of a bucket list thing. And I guess the postponement of our trip for so many years sort of allowed us to rethink some things that we would like to do that maybe we wouldn't have done 4 years ago.
Right. Okay, now you said this is the last park day, but there's still several days left in your trip. So what is June 24th?
June 24th. Oh, actually, I may have misspoken. We're actually leaving Florida on the 28th, but we're leaving Disney on the 24th. I apologize.
Okay. And so all of you are leaving on the 24th?
We are, yes. Saturday is leaving day, which is always the worst. It is our tradition to do a character breakfast on leaving day. And so we are going to go back to Topolino's for breakfast. We have a 9 o'clock reservation. And then we will check out. Tyler, our son-in-law, has to be back in Virginia Beach for work. So we're going to drop him off at the airport. And then the 4 of us, the OGs, we are headed to the beach for a few days to sort of rest and recuperate.
Which beach are you headed to?
We're going to Indian Harbor. And that is not a place that we have ever been. Historically, we go to Sanibel Island, but our place on Sanibel is still very much destroyed since Ian. So I just sort of got on the internet and picked a beach. So that's where we're headed.
So that is still in Florida, but I'm looking it up right now because
Oh, yeah. It's about an hour and a half from Orlando, just south of Cocoa Beach.
Okay. Yeah, I see it. Oh, and Cape Canaveral. South of
Right.
Cape Canaveral. Got it. Okay. Indian Harbor Beach, just south of Cocoa. Got it. Okay. And what kind of accommodations do you have there? Did you rent a place? Stay in a hotel?
We did. We rented a condo in a building right on the beach, and we're just going to hang out. That's been something that we have done all through my kids growing up. And so while we will miss Tyler, it will be kind of fun for just the 4 of us, sort of like the old days.
So you've always combined Disney World and a beach trip together?
Yes. Anytime we have gone to Disney, we've always followed it with time at the beach.
As someone who's also from Kansas City, it's when you're that close to water, it's
Oh my
nice to be able
gosh.
to go visit the beach when you're so landlocked.
That is exactly right. And the ocean just gives me such great peace. It makes my heart happy. So that's my happy place. In addition to Disney, that's really my happy place.
Well, you get to do them both then. Okay,
Right.
so how many days are you going to be at Indian Harbor Beach?
So we'll be there until Wednesday, just a quick trip. The kids, Kate and Will, they have to get back for work. Obviously, they will have had quite a bit of time off. So Jim and I will drop them at the airport early on Wednesday, the 28th, and they will both fly home to their respective spots. And then Jim and I will start the drive, and we'll arrive home on the 29th.
Okay, do you have any plans the 25th, 26th, 27th that are things you want to share?
Really, our only plan is to sit on the beach and read and enjoy each other's company. And that's it. That's all we ever do. We have no place.
That's okay too.
It is. It's wonderful. That brings us all great joy just to sit.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a nice, fun, long trip, getting the family all back together again.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. Just really grateful that we have the opportunity and the time to do it.
Yes. Is there anything in your trip that we haven't talked about that we should before you head out?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think that's going to cover it all.
Yes. Well, that is plenty. So I can't wait to hear about it when you get back. Hope you guys have a great time.
Thank you
And
so much.
I'll talk to you in a few weeks.
That sounds great. Thanks again, Shannon.
Welcome back from your trip, Marin.
Thank you.
All right. So today is June 30th. You got back June 28th. So you haven't had much time. How
No, and
how are,
we
how are you feeling?
feeling great. We actually drove for 2 days, so we got in late last night.
Oh, okay. So just not even 24 hours.
Not even 24 hours.
All right. So I can't wait to start talking through it. It's a long trip, so we've got a lot to cover. Let's start at the beginning because you were driving with your son from Kansas City on June 14th to June 15th, and then your husband was flying in. So let's talk about the first day, couple days of getting there.
So we left early morning on Wednesday the 14th and drove to just north of Atlanta. And then on the 15th, we got up and drove into Walt Disney World. And there's just nothing like driving through those gates. It's been a long time since we did that. So that was really exciting. We arrived about 3 o'clock, and there had been protests and demonstrations earlier that week right outside the gate. And we were so happy that those folks were nowhere to be found when we came through the gate. So it was great.
Good. I'd seen those pictures too, and very disappointing.
Very. Yes.
On
They-
this day is also when your husband flew in.
Right. So he actually arrived late that night. He got to the Pop Century at about 1 a.m.
Oh, very late.
So in the meantime, Will and I checked in. We got settled a little bit, unloaded our luggage, and just sort of wandered around the Pop Century. We mentioned earlier that we had never stayed there. So that was really fun. We spent some time looking at the shadow boxes and sort of talking about those things. And then we grabbed a bite to eat at Everything Pop and then sort of started our Skyliner crawl, although that's a very loose term, I think. We got on the Skyliner. We loved it. It was really fun. And we just wandered. We went to the Caribbean beach and wandered around, and we went to the Riviera and wandered around. So we spent a lot of time at the Riviera. One of our favorite things, historically, we have stayed at the beach club. And one of our very favorite things about the beach club is the way that it smells when you walk into the lobby.
Right.
And so we walked into the Riviera, and it smelled so lovely. And so we were excited about that. And then a little bit later in the evening, we went back over to the beach club, and we got a good whiff of the beach club. But we decided the Riviera was going to work out fine for us.
Yeah, you got a little sneak peek.
Right, we did. And that was fun. We sort of wandered around, and we sat on a bench, and we watched people playing cornhole and that sort of thing. So that was good. That was
One of my favorite parts of these longer trip reports is there's more time to wonder.
And we did a lot of wandering. It was really lovely. It was just a really good time. And the two of us don't get to spend time alone very frequently. So I really enjoyed that.
That is nice. Anything else on this day before we move on to the 16th?
Let me look at we just wandered around. We had ice cream for dinner at the boardwalk, and we sat and watched the jugglers and the jump rope act and all of those good things. And then we were able to time our return to the Pop Century pretty well with the fireworks. So just as we came around the turnaround station, that's when the fireworks started. So that was kind of cool.
And you beat the long lines at the Skyliner station.
We
too.
did beat the long lines. It was great. In fact, we had to pause outside the Skyliner trying to time it so that it would work out pretty well.
Yeah, walk slowly.
Yeah, exactly. And then my husband arrived about 1 a.m. He came by Lyft, and that was the end of day one.
All right. And then the next day, did you go to Disney Springs as planned?
We did. Jim and I sat and drank coffee and caught up. We hadn't seen each other in about a week. And we got a bus to Disney Springs about 9:55, and we were in line at Gideon's at 10:20. That was the staff there had said it was about a 40-minute wait, but we were in the door at 10:45, and that was wonderful. I just really enjoyed that very much. And of course, we each got a cookie, and then we walked over and grabbed a bite at Earl of Sandwich and just again wandered and shopped a little bit. We had originally intended to go over to the French Quarter, but the boats weren't running. And my understanding was because the water level was too low. So
Yes, but for people listening, I believe they resumed recently. So that is a unprecedented thing. I had not heard of that before this year.
it was really interesting. And I thought, wait, what? But we didn't get to do that. But you're right. By the time that we were gone, the boats were running again. And we actually had quite a bit of rain that week.
Oh,
So
good.
that
That helps.
probably,
And yeah, got caught up.
yes, yes. So then we went and saw the new Pixar movie, Elemental.
Uh huh.
And I know that my understanding is that it hasn't done really well at the box office in the last couple of weeks, but we found it to be just a lovely story.
Good.
All three of us. We laughed, we cried. It was great. We loved it. And then Will stayed. He'd been wanting to see the new Spider-Man movie. So he stayed and saw another movie, and he had dinner at the Polite Pig.
Mm,
And as you know, being from Kansas City, we are quite known for our barbecue.
yes.
So it's hard sometimes to eat barbecue elsewhere. We have a restaurant here in Kansas City called Joe's KC,
Hmm.
and it has a sandwich that is absolutely extraordinary. And Will bought or got there the low and slow brisket sandwich at the Polite Pig, and he said it absolutely rivaled the Z-Man from Joe's KC. So that's high praise.
High praise and a great quick service.
Yes, really good. In fact, so good, we even ate there again later on in the week.
Yeah.
And then Jim and I went back and we got ready for our dinner at Victoria and Albert's.
Yeah. What did you guys bring special clothes because of the dress code there?
We did. Yeah, we had a garment bag. Jim took a sport coat and a tie, and I had a dress. And yeah, we did do that.
How'd you get there?
We took a lift. We left at about 5:40, and it was kind of funny walking through Pop Century. You know, everybody's got their park clothes on, and here we are all
Right.
dressed up, and it was a little awkward, but it was fine.
That's so
And
funny. It reminds me of many years ago before this was my job. We took a limo from the airport to a value resort. And I was like, oh, juxtaposition of different
right,
worlds.
right. Like,
But
where are you guys going?
yes, maybe you don't belong.
Right. But it was fine. We took a lift and we spent, I don't know, 45 minutes at the Enchanted Rose, and we just sat and talked. I wanted to try a lavender fog. I had been hearing about those, and that was fantastic. I loved that cocktail. And then we got a photo. You know, they've got that little photo pass area right outside of the Enchanted Rose. So we stopped and got a photo. And then we went we went into that little rotunda area just outside of Citrico's, I think it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the maitre d' came right out and greeted us by name. I don't know how she knew we were standing there, but she did. And we went in and sat down, and the harpist was playing, and it was just really, really special, really special.
How full was the restaurant this night?
It was it was completely full. When we got there, I think maybe there were 3 or 4 I think there were only 10 or 12 tables total. And when we arrived, there were 3 or 4 tables that were occupied. And then about every 20 or 30 minutes, they brought in a new reservation. I'm assuming they stagger it that way purposefully.
Yeah, that's probably how they knew who you were.
Probably so. There they are. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And we just had the most magnificent meal that you can imagine. We were offered a couple of choices. We were in the dining room, and so you could get the regular dining room menu, or there was a chef's tasting menu that added a couple of extra courses. So we decided to do that. And they also offer wine pairings, or there's also zero proof pairings.
Mhm.
So we both got the wine pairings, and it was 12 courses over 4 hours and just extraordinary. Lazar and Sherry took excellent care of us. And in fact, it was interesting. Sherry had also just celebrated her 30th wedding anniversary on our anniversary date. So that was sort of an interesting
What a
moment.
coincidence.
Yeah, very, very much a coincidence. So they were great about sharing with us all the details of each course as it came, and also talking a little bit about the wine pairings and why they make such good wine pairings. And by the end of course number 12, we both thought we were going to die, but it was completely worth it.
How long, like in terms of like time, was it from when you started in the dining room until the time you left?
4 hours.
Hmm.
And I know that may sound, I don't know. We loved it. We just absolutely loved it.
Well, I think it's helpful to view it as an experience because I know a lot of people think, oh, it costs so much money, but really it's hours and hours of an experience.
Very much an experience. And, even everything is so beautiful. It's just beautifully plated, and it's artwork. Every single
Mhm.
course is a piece of art, right down to the coffee service. They bring out this beautiful vacuum sort of a thing. And I don't know science, so I don't know how it works, but it's just pretty to look at.
Mhm.
And as I said, Lazar and Sherry were just lovely, and they were chatty when we had questions and not chatty when we didn't. And it was just really a lovely way for us to celebrate our anniversary. We
Yeah.
just enjoyed it very much.
Very nice, special night out.
Very special, very special. And then we made Will our Uber driver. So he came and picked us up after it was over.
If you're gonna do those wine pairings, you have to have some help getting home.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that was the end of our Friday night.
All right. So June 17th, the next day is when you were checking into the Riviera.
Right. So I got up early and I made some individual lightning lanes. I made one for Tron for the three of us, and then I made 5 for Guardians later that evening. And I got my standby skipper all set up with lightning lanes for the evening for Soarin' and Spaceship Earth and Test Track. And I'm still not sure I got the hang of the lightning lanes. We did really well. I feel as though we did really well, but I think I would have to do it again to make sure I was doing it correctly, especially with Standby Skipper. Standby Skipper was wonderful, but I'm not sure I used it to the fullest advantage.
Mhm.
Anyway, but
That was
it
gonna
was
th
terrific.
that was gonna be my next question because you hadn't been since the new system was in place, so I wondered how you felt about it, but you thought it was confusing, but you did okay.
We felt like we did great. We never waited in a line. The one thing that I would say about this new system is before I would have it so organized that it was very easy for us to ride things more than once, things that
Mhm.
we wanted to ride more than once. And I'm just not sure there's any way to do that with this new system, or at least none that I discovered in my limited time there.
If
So,
I think if you knew you liked something and you didn't wanna wait in lines, then I suppose, like, rope dropping it and then also using a lightning lane,
right.
that would
And
be the only way.
that would be the 6 years ago, that would absolutely be what we would have done. We had grand plans to do a lot of rope dropping, and that didn't really work out always. So, so you're right. That would definitely be the way to do it.
But if you wanted a later start, then I guess the lightning lane was the way to go.
It was great. And Standby Skipper was terrific too. It was able to get us some lightning lanes that had been sold out later in the day. And I just sort of went, oh, okay, that's too bad. And then lo and behold, 3 hours later, here was a lightning lane. So that was really nice. I did feel like I spent a lot of time on my phone But that was mostly because with standby skipper or with the lightning lanes, I would make them because I was afraid they would sell out. And then I was modifying them till later in the day
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times. And I'm not sure that was necessary. Again, I would have to go back and really I thought I got it. I studied and there may have been a better way to do it, but it worked out great. We had a grand time and we got to do almost everything that we wanted to do over the course of the week.
So I know your plan on this day and multiple days was to rope drop. Presumably you've done that in the past, so you assumed you would do that this time. What changed that during this trip?
I think we were out, our kids are older. And so we were out later
Mm-hmm.
and the weather had a little bit to do with it. It was really rainy that week. So there was one morning in particular that we just were like, no, we're not doing this. We're not
Mm-hmm.
going to walk in the rain. So just a lot of factors.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was, for the duration of the trip, or at least in the pre-planning, very focused on rides, which had always been our experience in the past. And in hindsight, I think maybe I could have lightened up on the ride focus a little bit. And so when we didn't rope drop, we still were able to ride many of the things we had planned to ride. And I wasn't dragging everybody out of bed at 6 o'clock. Not that I
Yeah.
wouldn't, but
Right,
that's,
right, right. I'm just
yeah.
always fascinated because I feel like every trip, a group has to find their rhythm and it can change from trip to trip. Even if last time your rhythm was rope dropping, this time it's not. And it can take a little while, I think, to feel that out.
Yes. And it did. It took a little bit for me. I was like, come on, we gotta go, we gotta go. And then I realized we got there later, but it still worked out perfectly. So there was no need for me to be uptight about the rope drop in particular.
So, did you start at Magic Kingdom on this morning?
We did start at Magic Kingdom. We had intended to rope drop, but we didn't.
Mhm.
We got up and we drove over to the Riviera about 9:30 and we dropped our luggage. And I was actually able to check in, even though we were using the military, the armed forces salute. I
Mhm.
was under the impression that I wouldn't be able to do that until we had one of our kids with their military ID, but they never asked me for it. So we checked in and we were on a bus to the Magic Kingdom by 10:30. We were in the park at 11 and our intent was to just take it easy. And we really did do that. And, I come around the corner. I'm a crier. I cry at everything,
Mhm.
Kleenex commercials, whatever it is. So we came around the corner and the castle was there. And of course I burst into tears. I'm just so happy to be here and that sort of thing. And I know that I'm not unique in that, but it makes my family laugh at me.
You're not alone, and I feel like that's a pretty normal thing.
Yeah, I just overwhelming to, okay, we're finally here. This is finally happening. So that was really lovely.
Especially when you're the planner, because there's so much leading up to it. You've been thinking about this for literally years, and then you're like, "Now we're here."
That is the truth. And I think that's what overwhelmed me. Okay, this is really happening. After all this time, it's really happening. So
Yeah.
that was nice. And we stopped, and my husband and son were gracious and they let me stand there and whimper a little bit. And then we moved on.
Good.
We had an 11:15 individual lightning lane for Tron. And we, all three of us loved it. But one of the recurring themes that we found is some motion sickness issues.
And
And
you had not experienced that before?
no, certainly not Will. I love roller coasters. I have never dealt with motion sickness. Jim does a little bit on and off, but he suffered a little bit this week. So it was just interesting. I don't know if that's a function of our age or I don't know. But anyway, we wrote it and we loved it. And Jim made the decision that that would be a one and done for him, which is
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
And there was a huge storm as we were riding Tron, the rain started. And if you're riding Tron in the rain, it's just pelting you in the
Mhm.
face.
Like little bullets.
Yeah, exactly. But we got off and then it was just pouring. So we hung out under the awning for quite some time and just sort of people watched for a while. It was, I don't know, it was probably 35 minutes. And then we moved on to the People Mover. Love the People Mover. and it was a walk on. We just waited just a very few minutes, and then we wandered back through the hub. We wanted to get some cheeseburger spring rolls, but the cart, because it had been raining, the cart was not open. So we just continued wandering through Adventureland and Frontierland and through Fantasyland. And then by the time we got back down, we ended up wandering back down toward Main Street, toward the castle. And we thought, well, we'll just go over and see if the cheeseburger cart is open now. And it was. So we got in line. There was a huge line for the cheeseburger spring rolls.
The word is out.
Oh my gosh. Apparently they had, I think it's pastrami. There's one other sort of cheese, or excuse me, of spring roll that they have. And they had plenty of those. And, it was being passed down the line. They have pastrami spring rolls. Does anybody want those? And everybody's like, no, we're here for the cheeseburger. So we waited about 15 minutes for the spring rolls, and they were delicious. And Will especially loved them. And then we got on the train and we rode the train around. And then we exited the park about 2:00. And we had gotten a notice about noon that our room was ready. So we went back and got our luggage. I also had a grocery delivery from Walmart, and it delivered right on time, right at 2:00. And we just kind of got settled. And then Kate and Tyler arrived. They were flying in from Norfolk, but because of the weather, they were delayed a couple of hours. So they arrived about 4:00 and unloaded their stuff, and we headed out again. We got on the Skyliner. The storms had passed by then. And we went over to Epcot, and we went in and bought Memory Maker. The military has a very nice discount, so we needed Tyler's ID to do that. So we bought that, and we were in Epcot by 5:40.
So I want to talk about the Memory Maker thing because I've not heard of this.
Sure.
So a lot of people, if they know they want Memory Maker, they will buy it beforehand online, and it's just in their account. So for your particular situation, you get a bigger discount, but you have to buy it like at guest services.
Right. You have to show your military ID to prove that you're eligible for the discount. And it was $99 on the spot.
Okay. That is heavily discounted. That's nice.
It is. And I don't know how all of that works, but the military salute was really wonderful. We saved in total about $6,000 on the trip overall.
Wow.
Which is really significant. And so that's, obviously I'm a military mom, so I'm all about good things for the military, but that's really a lovely thing for them to do, for Disney to do for military members.
That is fantastic. So while we were on this topic, what has been your best resources for learning more about how to plan trips with military discounts, since that's an option for you now?
There are some websites, and there's a gentleman, I can't remember his name, but that's his primary focus. And there's also a Military Moms Disney Facebook page that I'm a part of as well. And I just sort of pick up bits and pieces here and there. There are a lot of things that don't necessarily apply to us. A lot of military members stay at Shades of Green, which is supposed to be really lovely.
Yep.
But we were just so grateful that we were able to get the discount. And initially we wanted to stay at the beach club again, because that's sort of where we have found ourselves most at home. But they didn't have any military rates at the beach club. So that's why we settled on the Riviera. And it was lovely. We had a 2-bedroom suite and lots of space, not suite, villa, lots of space. And I'll tell you what, that pull down bed, that is a game changer. Will, my son, he's about 6'2", 6'2.5". And poor guy, he's always relegated to the pull-out sleeper sofa, which he is a good sport, but has found somewhat torturous. But that pull-down bed was just fantastic, and he was actually sleeping on a real bed. So that was nice. That's been a great improvement.
Yes. I think anybody listening should know that pull-down beds feel just like regular beds, so it's not really a downside. They're really comfortable, as opposed to the sofa beds, which continue to be uncomfortable.
Terrible.
Yeah.
No, it was exactly like a real bed, mattress, and the whole bit. He was extremely comfortable. And I was grateful that he was sleeping well, and I didn't feel bad that he was on a rickety old couch bed.
Yes. All right. So we're going to go back to Epcot because that's where you
Okay.
guys all were this evening. And you just bought Memory Maker with your nice discount.
Right. So we had a lightning lane for Soren, and standby for Soren was just 20 minutes at the time, but we used our lightning lane. And then we went over to Spaceship Earth and used our lightning lane. And anytime we had a lightning lane the whole week, we never stood in line more than about 5 minutes, which was really wonderful.
That's incredible. That is not always the experience.
Well, that's my understanding, but that it was great. And then we had an individual lightning lane for Cosmic Rewind at 7:00. And
Can't wait to hear about this.
yeah, oh boy. So Jim, my husband, and our daughter, Kate, they decided that they would let the three of us ride and then tell them what we thought and whether or not we thought that they should make the attempt.
Mhm.
And so Tyler and Will and I rode, and oh my gosh, that is a fantastic ride. I
Mhm.
mean, everything about it is extraordinary. But the three of us got off, and Jim and Kate were waiting for us with expectancy in their eyes. And all three of us said, no way on this planet should you ever get on that ride. So they didn't. They didn't ride it at all. And
you-
for me, it was a one and done. I loved it, but that is not something probably that I will do again because I didn't feel great when I got off.
Okay.
And
But you liked it, but didn't feel good.
Yeah. And we had even done all of that. Like I bought relief bands, particularly for Jim. And we had all the Dramamine, and he even had a scopolamine patch, and it just didn't seem to matter so much for him. So anyway, we enjoyed it very much. We got September as the song, and we made bets in line as we were waiting as to which song we would get.
Mhm.
And that's one of my ultimate favorite songs. So I picked that one, and that made me win, which is good.
Nice. Did
Yeah.
anyone get to use those unused individual lightning lanes?
Yes. In fact, well, I can't remember if they did it. We did that several times over the course. I'm not sure if we did it that time, but Tyler and Will ended up writing things twice in a row on several occasions. And I can't remember if they did on that occasion or not. But yeah, we did a lot of passing off the magic bands.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's okay to say. I don't know if that's
It,
legal or not.
it's totally fine. And as in your case, I was just hoping they wouldn't go unused because they didn't know if it was going to be a motion sickness problem until you told them.
Right, exactly. So then let's see. Then we had a lightning lane for Test Track at 7:30, and Tyler and Kate and Will rode Test Track, and Jim and I, because we were pushing our dinner reservation, we were pushing the time limit on our dinner reservation. So we walked over to the Rose and Crown, and we were seated, and then they showed up about, I don't know, 15 minutes later. And we had a lovely meal. Matthew from Leeds was our server, and he was perfectly delightful. And it started to rain quite heavily, but we were under the awning, so the rain didn't affect us much during dinner. And the fireworks were great. I know a lot of people say they're not as good as the other ones. I guess it's just been so long since we've been there that fireworks to me are fireworks. So
Mm-hmm.
that was lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And I should
go ahead.
remind people that you did the Epcot Forever Rose and Crown dinner specifically.
Yes, we did. I think I mentioned in the pre-trip report that I do not love fireworks crowds at all.
Yes.
And we knew that we would not really have time to stake out a good spot ahead of time with too much advance timing. So the Rose and Crown it was. And that was great. And especially since it was raining so hard, we were able to sit there and enjoy ourselves and still see the fireworks very comfortably. Very.
Yeah, that is a nice set. It was a great area to view it from.
It was. And we had never been to the Rose and Crown, and that is a very nice area. And the food was good. It was, so much food, but it was very good.
Oh, right, because if you get the dinner package, it's a fixed price menu, so you
it
do get a
is.
lot of food. Okay,
Oh
got
my gosh, so much food.
Yes.
but it was very good food, and we had a great time. And the cocktails are also included in that, some cocktails. So we each tried some different sorts of things, and that was fun. And then we hooded up, got our ponchos on. It was raining really hard when we left, and we headed for the Skyliner. But of course, it was down, which was fine. But I thought that there would be buses there. So the cast member at the top of the bridge said that we could walk to the front of the park to catch a bus, because I asked about the buses, and she said, well, you can walk to the front of the park. And that's a long haul in the pouring rain.
That's
So
frustrating to me.
I know. So because I was thinking to myself, but that's not what I heard. But anyway, so we decided to continue on down the path and just go to the beach club and catch a lift. But as we were walking by the Skyliner, the cast member there said, you all can come up here and wait. We have buses coming. And I said, oh, there it is. That's what I thought. So we went up underneath the awning near the Skyliner, and we just waited about 5 minutes, and they led us down right around to the backside of the Skyliner. And there were 2 buses there. So we loaded up, and we were back at the Riviera by 10:30. Yeah. So it was a great day. Great day.
Good. Now, let us move on to the next day, which is Epcot. Was it? Oh, no, it was Hollywood Studios.
Right. So this is the day I had this grand idea. We're going to get up super early, and we're going to get a lift to the Speedway, and then we'll walk, and we'll still be at the head of the pack. Well, the forecast was supposed to be rain, hard rain. And we made the decision that we would forego being in the front of the pack so that we did not have to walk in the rain from the Speedway. So I canceled our lift, and we decided that we would just get up and go when we felt like going. As it turned out, the weather was absolutely beautiful. So we still caught the end of the early entry. We were at Hollywood Studios by about 8:15. So we were still able to get through and do about 15 minutes of that early entry time. So we walked on Mickey and Minnie, and I had done a lightning lane for Slinky Dog. Individual lightning lane.
Slinky Dog is a regular lightning lane.
Okay. So I had done, that's what I wrote down. Okay. So I had done a lightning lane for Slinking Dog at 8:40, and we did that. And it was a 60-minute posted time at that time. And then I'd also done a lightning lane for Toy Story Mania. So we rode that, and we stopped for some pictures. And then we had a lightning lane at 9:55 or Tower of Terror. And that's another one that Jim and Kate just didn't want to ride. So Tyler, Will, and I rode Tower of Terror, and then Tyler and Will went again. So because they love it, and I like it too. I think that's great fun. And there was about a 45-minute standby at the time we were using our lightning lanes, and they were able to walk on both times. And then we had an 11 o'clock lunch reservation at Sci-Fi, and that was terrific. We got a big kick out of remembering and I kept saying, are these real? These movies, were they real? Anyway, just sort of interesting.
And that was a Fantasmic package that you had.
It was. Unfortunately, yes, it was. And I'll tell you about that.
Oh, I have a feeling the weather is going to pop up again. I wanted to go back to the very beginning because you said Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and I know that was your first time on it. So what'd you think?
We liked it. It was super cute, and Jim didn't have any trouble with the motion at all. We all really enjoyed it. Just darling. Just darling.
Mm-hmm.
Fun little ride.
That mechanism, the trackless magnetic thing is different than old rides used to be.
Right. And we got a big kick out of that because so many of the new rides operate on that kind of a system and we hadn't
Yeah.
experienced any of them. And then, you get on Peter Pan and that's a very different experience.
Very different. The new ones are very smooth.
Yeah.
Okay, so take us back to after your Fantasmic lunch. I mean, your sci-fi
Sci-fi
fantastic
lunch.
package lunch.
And then we did the Frozen sing along show and that was lovely and very fun. And then we saw Indiana Jones at 1:15. And then we had an individual lightning lane for Rise of the Resistance at 2. And we all did that and loved it. That was just great fun. The cast member, we were wearing buttons saying we're celebrating. And of course, everyone wants to know what you're celebrating. And cast members said, "What are you celebrating?" And Jim said, our 30th wedding anniversary. And his response was, "Bleh." And he turned around and walked away.
Mhm.
So it was just cute. The persona of those cast members, the act was it was good. And we had a couple of interactions like that. And then we had a lightning lane for Smuggler's Run. And Tyler and Will were able to do that one twice as well. And then a lightning lane for Star Tours, and they did that one. That's one that I know I don't love from
Mhm.
years past, so I decided to forego that one. And then it was raining at that point, so we decided to take a break, or it was looking like rain, I guess, because we were able to get back on the Skyliner and get back. And we had dinner at Primo Piatto at about 6:15.
At Riviera,
At the Riviera, right? We went back to the Riviera.
and that is the fancy name for the, uh, fantastic quick service, right?
Yes, sorry, yes, it was, and it was very good. We ate there a couple of times. It was very good and really easy. The mobile order makes things really easy to maneuver, and things are right there, and you just pick it up and go find yourself a spot, and it was great.
Lots of good food right there.
Yeah, terrific. Then at 7:15, we went back to Hollywood Studios on the Skyliner. And we had a lightning lane for Rock and Roller Coaster. That's one that when I mentioned earlier, I wasn't sure I was doing Standby Skipper correctly. So we had the lightning lane, but it was for much earlier, but I knew that we wouldn't be riding it until later. So I kept modifying it. I think if I had just told Standby Skipper to do it in the evening, we probably still would have been able to get it. My concern was I wasn't sure. I just didn't know if we'd still be able to get it. So I went ahead and made them for earlier and then just continued to modify till later in the day. So that was another one that Tyler and Will and I rode, and then Tyler and Will got to ride twice. And during all this time, it sounds like Jim and Kate were doing nothing, but they were wandering around, and they don't get to spend a whole lot of time together, just the two of them either. So they sat and had a cocktail and just talked. And so it was really quite okay that they weren't riding all of these things. And I thought that might be an issue, but it really wasn't. They didn't mind at all. So that was
Yeah.
nice.
Good.
And then we got our seats for Fantasmic, and it started at 9:15 on the dot. And at 9:18, it was over.
Mm.
I don't know what happened. It was some sort of a mechanical thing. Everything went black, and they came over and said, "We are experiencing," I don't know what they said. But anyway, so we waited until 9:30 just to see if maybe it would start again, but it didn't. And we had a reservation at Oga's. And originally our reservation was at 9:40, but I was able to, with a stakeout app, the stakeout app, I was able to get us a 9:50 that morning. So we left Fantasmic at 9:30 and just walked slowly over to Oga's, which was really nice because the park was closed. And even walking over to Oga's, there was nobody there. And that was kind of cool.
Mhm.
And we went to Oga's and just had a grand time there. What a cool place that is.
Mhm.
The atmosphere was great. The cocktails were funky and weird, and we enjoyed that. And that was one of our favorite things. So
Was
we
it
left.
busy at
Oh,
this time?
it was busy, but as we were there, we got there at 9:50 and we left at 10:45, and it started to empty out about 10:20, but we just sort of stayed and hung out. And by the time we left, we were the last people out the door. So that was fun. And then walking back through that area, we stopped and we took a lot of pictures and just sort of stood there looking around. It was great. And it's just lit up so beautifully. And the other thing that we noticed that was so fascinating, when you're there during the day, you're hearing people and all of the things, but at night it was so quiet. And they even have sound effects coming out of the bushes, like small animals and giant bug type sounds. And I'm
Mhm.
sure they weren't real,
Yeah,
but
they're not.
it was really cool. It was really cool just to hear
Very
all of that.
It's very cool, and Pandora over at Animal Kingdom has similar effects, but that park closes so early that I feel like people don't get to really enjoy it.
No, I
But
think
on this day, did you end up getting individual lightning lane for Rise the Resistance?
yes, we did. And we rode that at 2 o'clock.
Okay, so I'd love to know your thoughts on that ride, but also just Galaxy's Edge in general.
It was wonderful. It's that smooth. It was great. We loved it. All of us loved it. Nobody even felt crummy after getting off of it, which was also good. Um,
And you liked Oga's to end your night.
yeah, that was a great way. And I can't remember where I heard to do that. It may very well have been you and your team that suggested that, but that is a terrific thing to be able to do.
I don't know if we suggested it, but I know a lot of trip reports have had people doing it. It seems like a great way to end the day and also a chance to take pictures.
Great pictures. And we just walked very slowly. And the cast members were so lovely. They didn't seem to mind at all that it was 10:45, 11 o'clock. And we were just sort of wandering out. No, we didn't stay past our welcome, I don't think. But it was great. And then the other thing we were concerned about, we didn't know if the Skyliner would still be running because it was so late. It was after 11 o'clock. But I don't know if they knew we were still in the park. I don't know, but the Skyliner stayed open and we were the only people. And we got on and got off at the Caribbean beach and then got back on. And it seemed like they were just waiting for us to get where we were going and then shut everything down. So it worked out great.
Good. That sounds like a fun day then at Hollywood Studios. The next day was planned for Epcot.
Right, Epcot. So we were up early. This was a rope drop day, and we were able to make the rope drop. I got an individual lightning lane for Guardians at 10 o'clock.
For everyone or just the people that you knew would like it?
I got four of them so that Tyler and Will could ride twice.
Uh-huh.
And we were through security and lined up for Remy at 7:40, and we were just about 10 people back, which was good. And by 8:25, we were off Remy. And 8:30, we walked over to Frozen, but it was down. So we got some pictures. And by 8:45, it was back up. So we waited about 5 minutes and then got on Frozen. And both of those rides were new to us since the last time we were there. And we loved them. They were terrific.
Mhm.
And then we walked on Three Caballeros. And then it was time for the Guardians individual lightning lane. And they got Everybody Wants to Rule the World, I think, the first
Mhm.
time. And then I ran the second time that they went.
I love that you asked them and that you wrote it down.
Well, I think the music is a big part of the whole experience, or at least I think it is. And those songs, I'm a little bit older, and so those songs are all very much a part of my growing up. And Will loves old music, so yeah, I did ask.
Yeah,
Um,
those are fun ones.
yeah, they are. So then we had a lightning lane for Soren, and we went over. It was a 55-minute standby at that point, but we just walked right on. And then we also had a lightning lane for Finding Nemo, which we probably didn't need, but we had one. And we rode that at 11. And then we went over. I really wanted a picture of all of us with Mickey Mouse in his traditional clothing. So the little theater there, I can't remember what it's called. they have a Mickey Mouse. And so we went over and got a picture. And then we walked onto the land. And then it was about 12:15. And we thought we needed to get a bite to eat before we started our drinking around the world tour. So we stopped at the Honey Bistro.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 of us got chicken and waffles, which was wonderful. And Kate got the pollinator flatbread.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that was one of the best things she ate the entire
That's one of our favorite booths. I think you chose a good one.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure that we chose that based on your team's recommendations. Those were great. And then we also stopped and got a little bit later some of the beef at the Fleur de Lis booth. That was really good. That was really good too.
France
So-
and Honey Bistro, two good ones.
Right. So from there, we sort of started our tour around the world, and we sort of bucked the common practice. And instead of starting in Mexico, we actually started in Canada. And I know some people feel very strongly about the order in which that is done, but we decided that if we were going to end up shooting tequila, we wanted that to be at the end and not at the beginning.
Yes. You can do
So-
whatever you want during your trip. I mean,
That's right.
you were already at Honey Bistro, which is on that side of the World Showcase. So you just go
Right. Exactly. So that was great. And we started out, we knew that we weren't going to each be able to drink a whole drink. I mean, that would just be disastrous. So we started out getting 2 drinks at every place, and we just had some straws and we shared the drinks. And I don't know if you want to know what we had, but it was all great. Our favorite by far was the Viking coffee
From which,
from
Booth.
Norway.
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was delicious. And then the Grand Marnier slushy in France was also wonderful. In fact, we got 2 of those. We went back for another. So we just went all the way around. By the time we got to Germany, we were down to just ordering 1 drink and sharing 1. And that was great. And we finished up in Mexico with an avocado margarita. And we just got 1 of those. And that was it.
And was that at La Cava or outside of the Mexico?
It was in La Cava. Yeah.
Okay.
We went in. And that was really interesting. Very, very different. And that was the cool thing about this particular activity. We ordered things that we would never order if we were just out and about on any given day. So that was fun. It was fun to try some new things, and some we loved and some we just thought were okay. But that Viking coffee, oh my goodness, that was
Yeah.
delicious.
I just looked it up because I was thinking you were doing the food booth, but I think that's not a food booth thing. That's just a Norway thing.
No, that was a Norway thing. That was right inside. And Will got himself a piece of school bread. I don't know if that's the right word, but a school bread.
At Kringla.
Yes, that's exactly right. And yeah, that was really fun. So we finished that at about 6:00, and we hadn't eaten since we had eaten the beef and the chicken and waffles and stuff. So we were hungry for dinner, and we weren't sure that we wanted to wait a whole hour because we weren't sure what we would do with that hour necessarily. So I went over and was able to move our reservation up at Beer Garden.
Mhm.
So we were seated at about 6:30. And I think I had mentioned in our pre-trip report that we sort of thought that maybe was expendable. I'm so glad we did it. We had a grand time. We were seated really close to the band and the dance floor, and the show was great and the food was really good. And we loved it. That is definitely something that we would do again.
Good. I'm glad you kept it.
Yeah, I really am too, because it was everybody said at the end that was one of the really fun things that we had done. So then we were going to stay for extra evening hours, but we felt like we had really done everything that we had wanted to do. So we decided to forego the extra evening hours that night, and we headed for the Skyliner, but it was down. That seemed to be a recurring theme with our experience with the Skyliner. And this one was mechanical, not weather related.
Hmm.
So we did have to walk to the front of the park that time to get a
They
bus.
they did not have buses that
They
time.
they did not. Nope. I asked, is there a way that we can get a bus from this side of the park? And they said, nope, you'll have to walk to the front.
So previously you considered taking a lift from the beach club, but this time you decided to walk to the front?
We did. And that's a great question. In hindsight, I have no idea why we did that. I don't know.
It's a long walk. I mean, this situation just really brings out my laziness because I'm like, I don't want to go all the way up there.
No,
Because
it was a long walk.
the front of the park is a long ways away, but then there's also quite a hike from there to the bus stops.
Right. You're right. And in hindsight, I have no idea why we didn't just do what we had planned before. Maybe because before it was raining and we were more focused on not being miserable.
Oh, right. And this is mechanical, so it
And
wasn't
this
the
was
rain.
mechanical. So, okay, we'll take a walk. And it gave us a chance. We didn't spend a lot of time at the front of the park at all. So it gave us a little bit of a chance to look around and that sort of thing. So that was fine. But there's so many walls still up. So there's not really much to see anyway. But
Right. I was going to say, I think it's an interesting phenomenon that when you enter through the International Gateway, because that's where your hotel is or whatever,
Mhm,
you
mhm.
do end up missing a lot at the front of the park because you don't enter that way.
Right. And there's not a whole lot of reason to go all the way to the front of the park unless you have to. So
The lights on Spaceship Earth, that would bring me up there.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, and it was beautiful. And we could see from our balcony at the Riviera. We had a really good view of Spaceship Earth. So that was lovely in the evenings when we would get back to the park. We would just sit out there and admire the Skyliner and Spaceship Earth, and it was cool.
So on this night, you did not stay for extended evening theme park hours?
We did not. We went ahead and went back and just sat outside on the balcony and chatted and looked at the lights on Spaceship Earth, and then we must have been in bed pretty early that evening.
All right. You've had several park days in a row. You told us before that the next day, June 20th, was going to be more of a rest day, not a non-park day.
Excuse me. So it was a rest day. It was great. We slept in a little bit. Jim and I sat outside on the balcony and drank coffee. And at 10:15, we took a bus to Disney Springs. Kate especially really wanted to go to Gideon's. So we got on a bus and there was about a 30-minute line at Gideon's. And the first time we were there when it was just the three of us, I had gotten a coffee cake cookie, which was delicious. And this time I got a peanut butter one, and I also got a peanut butter cold brew. Oh my goodness, that was spectacular. So, so good.
Yum.
And then we went back for lunch at the Polite Pig because Will had spoken so highly of it.
Hmm.
And that was really good. We enjoyed that. Tyler had a friend that he had flown with. He did air shows, and this was one of the guys he had flown with that had just recently moved to Orlando. So we met him for lunch, and they went off and had a beer and a good catch up. And the four of us just wandered around and did a little bit of shopping. And at 2:45, we went back to the Riviera. And when we got back to our room at 3:15, mousekeeping was there. So we just went downstairs and Will and Tyler played a game of chess with the giant chess pieces
Hmm.
out in the courtyard area. And we sat on the bench for a little while. And then we went up. There are some little rooms off of the lobby area that are screened in porches, kind of. And so we were able to sit in one of those little rooms and just visit. And we could see Will and Tyler playing chess from where we were. And we sat there for about an hour and a half, just enjoying being there, which was really lovely.
Hmm.
And then that evening, that was our reservation at Topolino's. And so we went up to Topolino's at about 7:10 and ordered cocktails in the lounge. And then it was just a beautiful evening. So we took our cocktails out on the terrace and we took some pictures, and the view was just wonderful, and toasted our good fortune, and it was terrific. And then our dinner reservation was at 7:50, and dinner was great. We did the ricotta appetizer, which everybody talks about, and then we really got a wide range of things. Lamb, I got the rigatoni, Tyler got the bouillabaisse, which he said was fantastic. And then Jim had a steak. And then the fireworks started. One thing I did, it was quite packed out on the terrace for the fireworks. So the restaurant didn't seem to be that packed, but by the time we got out onto the terrace, it was just wall-to-wall people. So we didn't even watch from the terrace. I think our timing was a little bit off with our dinner reservation. Our reservation was at 7:50. And I think if it had been a little bit earlier, then the timing with the fireworks might have worked out a little bit better. I don't know what the common wisdom is in terms of good timing for that, but I think ours was a little bit late.
What time were the fireworks on this night?
9 o'clock? 9 o'clock.
Really? And you thought your reservation was a little bit late?
I thought it was a little bit late. Yeah.
Huh.
And
Huh.
I don't know. I can't explain. I think if it had been, because by the time we were still sort of enjoying our I can't remember if we weren't in the main course, but there might have been dessert and coffee. I like coffee after dinner. But by the time we actually got out to watch, the terrace was just packed with people.
Mhm.
I think if we had finished a little bit earlier, we might have been able to wait on the terrace and maybe not have had to stand so far back. I don't know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
And that was the end of our rest day.
You're a perfect example of eating where you are.
Right. Right. And it was great. Just Topolino's was really lovely, and it's just such a pretty environment, and the food was great. And so, yeah, it was terrific.
The next day was another Magic Kingdom day, but this time with everybody.
Right. So I got individual lightning lanes for Tron. Four of them.
Wait. Okay. I was going to say,
Four.
how many people?
That's right. And then I also got one for the mine train. And we got a much later start. This was one day that I wish we had actually started a little bit earlier, but we got a late start. We got to the Magic Kingdom at 10:15, and we had really lightning lanes and individual lightning lanes all day long. We started with Jungle Cruise, and that was a 10:55 lightning lane. And by the time we got there, they were already on an 80-minute standby. And then we walked on. We didn't walk on. We did a Small World standby, and it was a 15-minute posted wait. And we actually waited 20 minutes. And that's the only time we waited more than a few minutes to get on a ride, which was really terrific.
I'm so impressed by that.
We had a lightning lane for Buzz, and that was a 55-minute standby when we got there. And then we had an individual lightning lane for Tron. So Will and Tyler rode that twice. And then we got on the Carousel of Progress, which I have always really enjoyed for a couple of reasons. I just think it's cute and it's nice and cool. But this is an interesting thing. A lot has changed in 6 years in the world. And as I was sitting there watching the Carousel of Progress, I thought to myself, I don't like this. What are we doing? No, this is not right. So I just thought that was so interesting because I've always really enjoyed it, and I still enjoyed it. It was fine, but there were perhaps some themes in it that I no longer find myself perhaps being as tolerant of. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase that, but anyway.
Oh, Marin, this is my opinion as well. And I always get a lot of pushback when I say it, but I'm like, it's just not entertaining to me. I'm sorry.
That's interesting that you say that. Yeah, it was nice and cool, but other than that, I didn't enjoy it. And maybe that's because I don't know, pushed back, I guess. That's fine. It's okay.
I am crossing my fingers for an update, perhaps.
Yeah, there are so many things that they could do particularly in the last couple of, I don't know. There's a lot that they could do. We'll
Yeah,
see.
we've had a lot of decades since, so they could refresh it with that.
Right. Exactly. I agree. I completely agree. So anyway, then we had an individual lightning lane for Mine Train, and that was a 120-minute standby when we got there. And then we went back for more spring rolls. Will kept talking about the spring rolls, and Kate and Tyler decided they had to try this illustrious spring rolled thing that you get from a cart. So we did that.
Was it a long
And
line again?
it was a long line. It was a
Mhm.
really long line. It wasn't as long as the other day, but the other day they had been closed. So maybe that was why there was such a long line.
Would it be fair to say this is one of the longer waits that you had during your trip?
Yes, for a cheeseburger spring roll of all.
Listen, that's why I asked you because I think that can be surprising. And also Dole Whips, like it's a kind of a similar thing.
And that was, I mentioned at the start, we didn't not do very many things that we had wanted to do, but Jim and Will really wanted a Dole Whip, and we just didn't get one. And so now we'll have to go back.
That's right. Add it to the to-do list for next time.
Right, exactly. So we ate spring rolls, and then we had a lightning lane for Pirates, and that was a 35-minute standby at the time. And then it was about 2:45 and it was getting really hot. So we ducked into the Hall of Presidents and sat in the nice cool for a little while. And then at 3:20, when we came out, there was big lightning, big storm rolling through. So we got out of there fast because we knew we would be back. We were planning on doing extra evening hours that night. So we hopped on a bus and went back to the Riviera. And this is the night that Kate and Tyler went to Jico for dinner. So they took the car, and then Jim, what's my husband's name? Jim, Will, and I went to Sebastian's, which had not been part of our plan. We were just going to grab something quick. But Jim and I had been out walking earlier, and we had walked right by it. And I thought, I've heard great things about that. I'm going to see if maybe there might be a last minute reservation. So there was. And we enjoyed that very much. And it was really, relatively speaking, it was really inexpensive. And the food was really good. And we really, that was a good call. We were glad that we did that.
I'm really glad you did too. It's another example of eating where you are because it's so close to where your resort, but it was technically a different resort.
Right. And I thought to get over there, we might have to get on the Skyliner again, but we just walked right around and it was right there. And it was just terrific. And it was a nice walk even after dinner. So that was great.
Their availability to me is a little bit scary because I'm like, it's such a good restaurant. I need them to stay busy enough to stay open.
Right. But not
Mhm.
busy enough that I can't get a last minute
Right,
reservation.
right.
If I want.
Let's strike that balance.
Right. Exactly. So then
Wait, how did they like Chico's?
they loved it. They really enjoyed it. Kate had the plant-based meal, and she does not eat plant-based as a general rule, but she said it was excellent. And Tyler got a filet, and of course they both raved about the bread service. That was the greatest. So they loved it. They had a really nice time, just the two of them, and that was kind of nice too.
So were they at Chico's or Sanaa?
They went to Jico.
Okay. They had the bread service there.
Yeah, they did. And I don't know if it's the same bread service that you get at Sanaa, because that's the one everybody always talks about. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but Chico's a great restaurant too.
Yeah, they said it was terrific. So Jim, Will, and I went back to the Magic Kingdom. Kate and Tyler were still out. And so because I wanted to get back to see if maybe we could catch Happily Ever After so I could see the projections along Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
So we got back in time to do that, but the crowds were just crazy. And as I've mentioned, I don't love that. So we managed to make our way around the outside, and we were able to get to Frontierland. Excuse me. And so we watched the fireworks from the backside, and that was lovely. There was nobody there. And so we watched, and this was an evening that was sort of interesting. It was actually quite cool. So Jim was wearing a jacket and I had a sweatshirt on.
Are
And
you kidding me? In
I'm
June?
not. It was
Wow.
very strange. We'd had a lot of rain that day, and so I was wearing a sweatshirt.
But I'm fascinated with the fact that you had jackets and sweatshirts with you.
Well, just in case, we only had one, but
Mm.
we used it that one time.
Mhm.
So that was cool. We'd never seen the fireworks from the backside. And, the point at which Tinkerbell
Mhm.
flies, and I looked over at Jim and I said, "Oh, this is where Tinkerbell flies. I can't wait to see that on Friday night," because that always makes me a little emotional too.
Mhm.
So then Kate and Tyler were able to get there and make their way. We just told them, "We'll meet you at Big Thunder." We had a 9:30 lightning lane. So we just said, "We'll meet you there." And we did. And that's always so fun to ride at night, I think.
Mhm. Extra fun at night.
Yeah. And this was the point at which Standby Skipper, I had tried to get a lightning lane for Haunted Mansion, and I left it on my Standby Skipper search thing, and it was able to get us a lightning lane for, I didn't write down the time. Oh, yes, I did, 9:59.
Wow.
And it had been sold out all day. So this 9:59 lightning lane showed up. So we rode Haunted Mansion. And then it was extra evening hours. So we walked over to the Little Mermaid and we rode that. And then we rode Buzz, which is a family favorite. And then Tyler and Will rode Space Mountain. And I had gotten an individual lightning lane for Tron for them in the 6:00 drop. And the estimated callback time was 11:59. So at about 11:15, they got called. So after they got off Space Mountain, they walked over to get in line for Tron, and they were in line for a full 60 minutes.
Oh my God.
Um,
During extended evening theme park hours.
yeah, I thought the park was still very crowded, and I guess I was sort of expecting it to be much more empty than it was. And I couldn't tell, I don't think they usher non-riders out because we had to give our our magic bands. They had to scan our magic bands every time we tried to ride something. But I would imagine if you just wanted to stay and not ride, you could do that.
Yeah, that
So
is correct. That is correct for this event or
for
this.
this event, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So I felt like the crowds were still pretty significant even after that. And they waited, as I said, a full hour to get back on Tron. And while they did that, Kate, Jim, and I went over and rode Peter Pan. We love Peter Pan. There's just so much, I guess it's nostalgia, but that's just one of my very favorite rides. And then the three of us wandered back down Main Street, and we got a bus. Just the three of us got a bus back to the Riviera about 11:40. And then Tyler and Will were back at the Riviera by about 12:35. So they were able to get a bus after they finally got off Tron.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was that evening. And that was a good day. They were all good days, really, honestly.
Yeah, they've all sounded pretty good to me so far. And the
Right.
next day, because you had a late night, you were planning to sleep in it and then head to Animal Kingdom for the first time.
Right. So we did go to Animal Kingdom. I got up and made an individual lightning lane for Flight of Passage at 11:00. And we got to Animal Kingdom probably 10:30, and we had a Navi River Journey lightning lane at 10:35. And by
And
then,
I can't
oh,
remember, was this section new to you?
yes,
Okay.
beautiful. Just really cool. But as you mentioned, that had been something that I really would have liked to have seen at night, because I
Yeah,
feel like it had to glow, and I bet it's just extraordinary at night, but you can't see it at night right at the moment. So
it is. I just wish yeah, especially in the summer when, I don't know, it's light longer and I don't know, it just feels like you should be able to go when it's cooler.
right, right. And Animal Kingdom, I know everybody says it, but boy, that park But we rode Navi River Journey, and I thought that was lovely. I could ride that one 4 or 5 times all day long. I just loved it. And I know it gets a lot of criticism for being boring, but maybe I'm boring too. I just loved it. I thought it was great. And the other thing that I thought was so interesting was that animatronic at the end.
Mhm.
Wow, so fluid and smooth and just really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So we enjoyed that. Then we had an 11 o'clock individual lightning lane for Flight of Passage. Jim and Kate went down the road a bit and sat and had a cocktail. And Tyler, Will, and I were going to ride Flight of Passage. And, it must be 4 times they say, if you have any motion sickness issues, you should not ride this ride. And of course, they say it in a different fashion, but that's the message. So the 4th time they said that, it was right before we were getting ready to get on to the Banshee,
Mm-hmm.
and I chickened out.
Oh,
So I took the chicken out, and they were so gracious because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to feel bad. So if they had only said the motion sickness thing 3 times, I probably would have stayed. But the 4th time I was like, okay, this must be terrible because that's the 4th time they've said that. So I chickened out and I went down to the gift shop and I waited for them. And they both came out saying that was by far their favorite ride.
mm-hmm.
Tyler especially, he absolutely loved it. And he's used to flying around in F-18, so that may have something to do with it, but he loved it. And they both said, you should have gone. You should have gone. It's not that bad. You should have gone.
It's not as bad as Cosmic Rewind.
Well, but on Cosmic Rewind, I don't remember anybody saying 4 times, you should not ride this if you feel motion sickness.
I do think those warnings are a little dramatic.
Well, clearly they are, especially in this case. So I was a little disappointed in myself, but it is what it is. I made the decision.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, I knew that we also had another opportunity to do it. So I decided right then and there, okay, if we get to ride this again, I'm doing it.
Okay. I know then maybe the next day, in fact, will be when you get to do it.
Right.
Okay.
So then we mobile ordered Satuli Canteen, and that was some of the best quick service that we had the whole week. That is really good food. And then we had a lightning lane for the safari, and that was 100-minute standby when we got there, and we were able to get right on. And then a 1:30 lightning lane for Everest, and Kate, Tyler, and Will rode Everest. I just decided to hang out with Jim. And then we had Kate's must-do ride is Cali River Rapids. So we had a lightning lane at 2 o'clock for Cali River. And just as we got up to get in the boat, weather was moving in, so they closed it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very disappointing. But, what are you going to do? It's weather. So we had a multi-use pass, and we decided to go ahead and go on over to the Finding Nemo show and use it. We shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have used it because we didn't need to. And maybe we might have been able to get on Cali. Anyway, hindsight 2020. So we watched Finding Nemo, and I had never seen that before. That was fantastic. That was great. That was a great show.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed that. And then by 3 o'clock, we were back on the bus to the Riviera, and it was raining hard. Then we started to get back on the Skyliner at 4:30. The rain had stopped, but there were storms in the area still. So at 4:30, Jim, Will, and I headed for the Skyliner, and the Skyliner had just gone down because the storms were moving in. So we walked back to get on a bus. We were trying to get to Epcot because we had a 5:10 reservation at Le Cellier.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the day that we got on the bus to go to Epcot, and we found ourselves stopping at all of the Caribbean beach stops as well. In the meantime, Kate and Tyler said, because I had sent them a text message, hey, the Skyliner's down, so we got a bus, just, meet us when you can. And Kate sent a message back saying, we're on the Skyliner. So we stopped at one of the places the bus stopped was at the Caribbean Beach Skyliner station. So we asked if we could get off. So we got off and we ended up riding the Skyliner back through the Riviera and to Epcot. Anyway, we had a dinner reservation at Le Cellier, and that was Will's must-do thing, and it was terrific. And then at about 7, we walked over to Jelly Rolls, and that was so fun. We just had a great time. We got there pretty early. The music doesn't start until 8. So we got there, we wandered around a little bit and got into the place at about 7:45. And there were probably 10 people there, not a big crowd just yet. And the two musicians came out at about 8 o'clock. And because there were so few people, they chatted everybody up. Hey, where are you from? And when we said that we were from Kansas City, the one pianist, he was extraordinary. Tattoo was what they called him. And he played a rousing rendition of Kansas City. And of course, we hooted and hollered and thought that was terrific. And classic piano bar, make the requests, and they played all kinds of great things. One thing I did notice, my kids were on the younger side at the beginning of the evening, and it started to fill up pretty significantly. But it was mostly a little bit younger than we are, but certainly not as young as our kids. That was the crowd for the most part. And they were playing, music that we love, like Brown Eyed Girl and Sweet Caroline and Tiny Dancer and American Pie. And we're all singing, and it was really fun.
This
And
is
then go
perfect
ahead.
activity when you have adult kids.
Oh my gosh, we had a great time. And our server, Brian, was very nice, and he was terrific. And then Jim and I left at about 10:30. We weren't sure what the Skyliner was going to do, so we decided to go, and the kids decided to stay. And they stayed past 11 o'clock, but the Skyliner was still there. And it was funny because they said they decided to leave when the pianists started to play more contemporary music. And I don't know what that's about, but I'm sure the younger crowd comes in later. And so they would need, does the younger crowd really want to hear Danger Zone on a piano? I don't know. So whatever.
We've seen a lot of the Disney College Program kids end up there, so maybe they show up later.
Oh, sure. That makes perfect sense. At any rate, they had a great time. We had a great time. And that was the end of Thursday.
All right. Well, the next day is going to be really fun. Last park day, but also a VIP tour.
Right. And that was fun. So we got up, and at 9:30, the Skyliner was down again due to weather. So that was the one thing I think, had the weather been better, I think the Skyliner is just extraordinary. It was fun, and it was easy, and it got us going where we were going. Because of the weather, however, and it was down so frequently, we kind of thought, is that a deal breaker for us for maybe staying at the Riviera again or on a Skyliner resort? I don't know the answer to that, I guess.
No, but I think you're bringing up a great point, because if that is a selling point for you and you're going during a rainy time, which this is, then
Right.
you may not be able to take advantage of it.
No, we didn't as much as we could. And just, if you can walk there, it just makes things easier, and then you don't have to think about it. But anyway, so we then walked from the Skyliner back up to the bus, and we waited about 15 minutes, and we were able to get to Epcot. And Kate and Tyler weren't with us that morning. They were moving a little bit more slowly. So we just wandered around, and Will just loves the World Showcase. And he just likes to wander around and look at things and do a little shopping. So that's really what we did. We got a lot of pictures. We went back for more Viking coffee. And then at 11:30, we had a reservation at Space 220 for lunch.
And was that 3 of you or 5 of you?
That was all 5 of us. Yeah. Kate and Tyler were able to get there, and they kind of wandered around the World Showcase on their own, got their own pictures, and did their own thing. And then we just met at Space 220 for lunch. And that was a cool experience. We enjoyed that. That may be probably that's a one and done. You've done the experience. The food was very good. And we got a big kick out of sitting in front of those big windows.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's a lot of food. It's that price fix and you get appetizer and at 11:30, that's just a lot of food.
Mm-hmm. And not cheap.
I'm sorry?
I said, and it's not cheap.
And it's not, no, it was not cheap. So then we just continued to wander around. And then at 2:00, we went back to the World Traveler right by the International Gateway, that little shop there.
Mm-hmm.
And we met our VIP tour guide, Megan.
All right.
She was lovely, really lovely. We enjoyed our time with her.
Well, what did you do first?
So we had booked her for 7 hours. And the first thing she wanted to know was, okay, what do you want to do? So we showed her our list, and it was primarily things that we hadn't been able to do or wanted to do again, all 4 parks, 14 rides. So she said, okay, we can do that. So we started in Epcot, obviously, because we were there, at Soarin'. That's just a favorite. We just love Soarin', so we couldn't resist another opportunity to ride that one. And the interesting thing is, I think I had failed to tell my family that the VIP tour did not mean that you got to go in front of every single person and just get on every single ride. It really just got us into all of the lightning lanes. She was able to get us in the lightning lanes, but if there was a line at the lightning lane, then we had to wait in line, which was fine. But I think I had failed to tell my family that. Will looked at me at one point and he said, wait, why are we standing in line? Sorry. So Soarin' was our very first ride. Soarin' was one of those where we had to wait a little bit. And then we were going to go over and ride Test Track again, but there was a mechanical issue. So it was down and we couldn't wait if we were going to make all of the other rides. So we just had to skip that. And then Tyler and Will went back and rode Guardians, and Kate, Jim, and I went and rode Spaceship Earth, and she was able to get them on Guardians and then walk us over to Spaceship Earth. And then we all met up again. And we got in a big black Suburban, and Megan drove us over to the Animal Kingdom.
And was that a backstage parking area?
Yes, it was. And the interesting thing about backstage is everything is so much closer to everything else backstage. So where you might have to walk for 10 minutes, if you're on stage, the backstage area, it's like right there, which was sort of interesting. So we got we got in the Suburban and we drove over to Animal Kingdom. And when we got out at Animal Kingdom, there was a whole team of people there with big baskets of snacks and things. And do you want this? And do you want that? And, we had just eaten. So no, we didn't. Thank you. But it was nice that they were there and they were offering us all kinds of things. So we went back and rode Cali River Rapids because we had missed that the day before. And we told her we really would like to do that. And then we went to Flight of Passage and I rode it. And it was the best ride ever.
Okay, good.
I loved it. I just loved it. It was beautiful, and really it was beautiful and thrilling and just really wonderful. So I was so glad I got to do that. And Jim and Kate went and shared some sort of a daiquiri with boba balls in it, which they enjoyed while we were doing that. And then we went over and rode Dinosaur, and Dinosaur is sort of a family joke because both of my kids, I don't know what we did when they were little, but both of my kids have considered themselves perfectly traumatized by that ride. And so we said, okay, you're adults now, you can ride Dinosaur and it'll be just fine. But the pictures, when the big thing at the end comes out and when they take the picture, they're hilarious because even though these are 2 adults, they were clearly still terrified of this animatronic dinosaur.
Listen, That's me too.
Is
It's
it
not.
really?
Oh yeah, yeah. My first trip as an adult was when I was 30, and I never took a picture without being terrified until a few years ago. And I'm 48, so it took 15 years to keep my face up.
Well, I will make sure and tell them that because I had to do a little bit of convincing even to get them on it. Like, no, that ride is terrifying. I am not getting on that ride.
No,
Honey,
but we all have different kinds of fears, and that's a very particular one.
absolutely. But they look terrified, but they both survived, which is.
Of course.
And then we rode Navi River Journey one more time. And like I said earlier, I just really enjoyed that one. And then we went to Hollywood Studios and we rode Toy Story because we love that one. And we rode Slinky Dog. And that was the only ride that Megan actually rode with us. She says she always rides Slinky Dog when it's time to do Slinky Dog. And then we rode Rise of the Resistance another time as well. And I think we must have gotten B mode that time because Tyler and Will were laughing about something that Kylo Ren didn't do correctly. And I thought, oh, maybe that's what that B mode thing is all about. So, but it was still great. And I wouldn't have known the difference. They were just laughing about it. And then we went to Magic Kingdom and we rode Winnie the Pooh, which I love and we hadn't had a chance to do. And then we all rode Peter Pan again. We rode Haunted Mansion, Pirates, and then it was time for Happily Ever After. So we mobile ordered food from Casey's, and she took us into the area right there that's reserved for VIP tours. It was really interesting to me as we were chatting. She said there were 66 VIP tours just that day. And that's a lot. When we were talking, she mostly was telling us about what she had to do to become a VIP tour guide. And she had started in the safari, being a safari driver. And then she was in guest relations. Anyway, she told us a little bit about celebrity encounters that she had had. And then I asked her a little bit about the political difficulties that Disney was having with the Florida governor. And she was very, very diplomatic about it.
Yeah, I bet they have to
She
be.
would have to have been, yes. And I even said that was really diplomatic of you. Very well done.
I have a feeling the surge in VIP tours is partially due to Genie Plus being so difficult and the parks being fairly busy over the last year and a half or so.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, she said there
that's my
were a
guess.
lot of them. And
Yeah.
when we got into the little area to watch Happily Ever After, it was quite crowded. It wasn't as crowded as it would have been had we been on the street, but it was quite busy. The nice thing about that is everybody stayed seated, but we ended up being close to the sort of little iron gate that fences off the next section in front, and those folks were standing. So that made it a little bit difficult to see. And we didn't want to stand up because we were in the front of that VIP section. Everybody else was sitting. So we may have missed a few of the projections, but the good stuff's all overhead anyway. So it was just great. And we enjoyed that, except Tinkerbell did not fly. So I was disappointed about that. I don't think anybody else really probably even knew the difference, but I was disappointed that she didn't fly that morning or that evening.
It's such an important part of Happily Ever After, in my opinion. It wasn't as much of a part of Disney Enchantment. Was it weather related? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm guessing because there were storms in the area, although the weather was fine. So I don't know. Or maybe it was wind. I don't know. But
during this time, was Megan with you, or did she just kind of drop you off and say goodbye?
She left us right at 9:00. We got our food and we took a few pictures with her in front of the castle, which was lovely because there was really nobody around and the castle is all purple and lit up and beautiful. And then she left us and we sat and watched Happily Ever After. And then we sort of wandered slowly back to the bus and went back to the Riviera. And that was our last night.
That is a great way to end your park time. But the next day, you had some stuff to do and another place to head to.
We did. So Saturday morning, we packed everything up and we had a breakfast reservation at Topolino's at 9 o'clock. And very different vibe from when we had dinner there. And it was terrific. The characters were just wonderful. We had great interaction with them. My kids were tolerant and allowed us to get a lot of pictures with all the different characters. So that was fun. And the food was really good.
Mm-hmm.
All the way around. Kate had quiche and I just had eggs, and Will had the brulee French toast, and he said it was really, really good. So we enjoyed that breakfast. And I think I'd mentioned that's kind of a tradition that we have, is to do a character breakfast on leaving day. That kind of makes leaving day maybe a little more tolerable.
Yeah.
So we loaded up the car and Tyler had to get back to work. So he got a lift to the airport at about 11 and he flew home to Virginia Beach. And the four of us drove to Indian Harbor Beach, which was about an hour, just a little over an hour away. And that was lovely. We had great weather that week. Last week, or is that, I don't even know what day it is this week. Super weather. The nice thing about it raining while we were at Disney was that we never really felt like it was unbearably, horribly hot. But I have a feeling that maybe this week, with no rain at all, that it would have been quite scorching. So I guess there are trade-offs always.
And you had a few days here at your condo and on the beach. What kind of things did you do? I mean, you said you were really just going to relax.
That's exactly what we did. We went out in the morning and set up our big tent, and we sat under the tent all day long, and we read and we floated and we chatted. And then in the evening, we did puzzles and played games, like the old days. I think I mentioned that when my kids were little. And that's really it. That's all we did. And then Wednesday morning, we got up early and we dropped Kate and Will at the airport, and they both flew home, Kate to Virginia Beach and Will here to Kansas City. And Jim and I started the drive, and we ended up getting home last night about 5 o'clock. Easy drive. And that's the end.
That's the end of a really fantastic trip. So am I correct in assuming that your long wait was worth it?
Oh, so worth it. At the time, I certainly would not have elected to wait, but we were able to do some things that we would not have done earlier. And it was wonderful. It was everything that I had hoped it would be. Even with the few little glitches we had, it was perfect. It was one for the books. And it's nice to know that the five of us as adults, we seem to travel really well together. We got along great. We just had a great time. So we'll look forward to planning something else sometime soon.
Yeah. So how long do you think it'll be before you maybe try it again?
Before we try Disney again,
Yeah.
probably it may, I don't know. I would love to say it'll be Christmas this year, but I don't know that will happen. I sure hope it will happen soon. Jim and I have been a couple of times just by ourselves, and we have really enjoyed the end of Food and Wine and going into the holiday season. There's one weekend there where it sort of overlaps, and we did that one year and just thought that was spectacular. So hopefully there will be opportunities for us to go back. The one thing that as I mentioned earlier, I think maybe even the next time will be a little less heavily ride focused, and that's okay too. And if you went more frequently, then there wouldn't be this pressure to, we have to do this and we have to do this and we have to do this. So that's the downside of waiting so long to go. But, it's all give and take, and you do what you can do. And we're just really grateful we had the opportunity to do it this way at this time.
Yeah. It feels to me like you had to play catch up because there's a lot of new stuff and old
Right.
favorites. And next time, maybe you do something else.
Yeah, exactly. It was
Right.
terrific.
Well, this was really fun to listen to, and I appreciate you taking the time, especially right after you just got home.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share our little adventure with everybody.
All right. Thanks, Marin.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Really loved hearing about the trip and was thrilled that it went so well for them. I think that will wrap up this episode of WW Prep to Go. For more information on this episode, you can always check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website wdwprepschool.com, click on podcast at the top, and scroll down to episode 364. Until next time, I will see you on the site.